Today's world is heavily driven by vanity. We look at people like Clavicular, like Hamza, and a lot of the times all they talk about is an ascension into money, status, looks, and without those things, life is incomplete and you will always lose to other people. And you are in constant competition with other men, even your own friends. And while there's a lot of truth to this in terms of individual opportunity, there's also a lot of poisonous and dangerous things about having this paradigm and this ethos and carrying this mindset into your day-to-day life. In the past, status and these kinds of rewards are given to somebody of mass servitude, like he's contributed a shit ton into society and given a lot back, and that's why he is given this appreciation for it. He's given this status, and people have to dedicate their lives into becoming a legend in order to get this kind of status, in order to get this kind of recognition and this kind of rewards. But nowadays, the rewards are given to those who have maximized themselves on an individual level, who have, autistically and meticulously and calculatively build themselves up in terms of every vanity metric, and that's how they've gained the status, looks, and money and fame. So in the past, where you had to win a Nobel Prize, where you had to, do something immense, innovate something, find a new way to express some sort of thought, build something for other people. And nowadays, in order to be recognized and be respected, you make a shit ton of money, and then you look hella good. And that's about it. And you carry yourself decently well. And people will automatically give you the respect and recognition that's close to what a king would get in the past. And a lot of this is due to overpopulation, because there's so many people living such high standards to the point where, overpopulation has almost diluted the purpose each individual has. And that's why we all turn to vanity metrics in order to assess one's worth. But really, in the past, when it wasn't as overly populated, we had small communities and villages, and everybody had their own role to play. Everybody had a sense of importance in whatever they were doing, because everything was scarce to the point where each person had a very significant role to play in that community. And now that resources are so abundant, now that there's people all over the place, all over the world, whereby nobody doesn't have a place to go, which is kind of a good thing, but at the same time, it's also a bad thing for communities itself. In a world where everybody is included, it almost feels like everybody has no place at the same time. Now we have shit like mogging and intense competition between friends in order to, get status, attract women. And you see this very commonly, whereby when friends break up, their significant other will sleep with their friend. And before you know it, the girl has been ran through by the entire friend group. And that's just so weird. And in order for individual men to win, they are told that they have to mog, they have to be PSL 25 and be absolutely beautiful, be on peptides, be on retatrutide, be absolutely gorgeous with amazing skin and abs and 10% body fat. Otherwise, it is over for them. If their maxilla isn't properly developed, it is absolutely over for them. And there's no hope for love in this world, since everything is superficial and shallow and vanity run. And I found myself really engrossed and lost in this world of vanity metrics, understanding that, it's almost like I've slowly convinced myself that my personality doesn't matter, my experiences and story don't matter if I'm chopped. If I don't have money and status, I don't have a place amongst other people who do. I will feel inferior, I will feel like I'm of lesser worth, I'll feel like women won't bat an eye to me, and I will always be in scarcity if I don't mock everyone I know. And if I don't optimize my own social opportunity by becoming incredibly rich, famous, sexy, and attractive to the point where other people in the past will look at me and be jealous of where I am and what I've built for myself. And at the same time, a huge part of me always values connection, always values conscientiousness, art, writing, how to speak. I really love films and TV shows that express a form of passion and craft. And after many talks with a friend that is willing to be honest with me, I'm starting to realize that I've banked way too much of my self-worth on these vanity metrics and let this social media brainwash me into thinking that I'm basically worth nothing unless I look decently good, I'm rich, and I have the status, and all of the above, right? The problem with putting all of our worth and valuing vanity metrics to such a high degree is that it destroys connection, it destroys friendships, it destroys relationships, it destroys a sense of spirituality. It destroys your soul and your mind. Because if people are solely judged based on their status, money, and all that, and looks, then nobody has to contribute to society. Nobody has to show any form of love or any form of care or any form of servitude or altruism or any form of passion or sacrifice. A lot of virtues will be completely scrapped. A lot of principles will be completely worthless. And how we judge the highest form of human is by simply vanity metrics. Then everything is fucked, right? And let's say I become rich, famous, and all of the above. I still want something in between me and the other assholes who are rich and famous and good looking. There has to be something that differentiates these people. And often these things come in ways that are completely unmeasurable, like your character, the things you've done, the experiences you've had, the stories you tell, the people you've helped. These things can't be calculated, these things can't be quantified really, but they simply manifest as you go around and live your own life and fuck around. Being the person you are, you kind of paint the world around you in a certain way. And that's how the artistry and the beauty of you as a person is kind of expressed in the day-to-day life. But nobody looks at that, and nobody will kind of ever fully be able to encapsulate in a quantifiable form of how amazing your character is, how amazing your personality is, how much good you've done for the world around you, how kind you are, how loving you are. It's very, very hard to quantify those things, and that's why it is much less desirable to seek those things, since it doesn't have immediate benefits, or it doesn't have a quantifiable benefit that it brings to us immediately after it is done. When you start to fully bank on vanity metrics being the sole measure of how much you're worth as a person, how well you're perceived, then you start to fall into a soulless existence where you're empty. You start to become more antisocial because you find that it is not worth being social, it is not worth showing interest in anybody or putting yourself out there if you're not good looking yet, if you're not rich and famous yet. Then, it is like lower leverage to put yourself out there and to take those risks and to face your social anxiety by speaking to people, since you don't look good yet anyway, you aren't rich or famous yet anyway, so it's just not worth it, since they're probably not going to respond well to you. And when you start to kind of eliminate all these different ways of attempting to live deliberately and live well with passion and love, and you mark it all off as, the people are not going to respond to me well, they're going to respond to me even better when I look good, so I should dedicate all my capacity into looking good, being rich and famous first before I put myself out there. This will tarnish your relationships, this will tarnish your opportunities in of itself. And you'll never know when you're rich, famous, or good looking enough. And besides that, you'll probably not even hit your goals, because what you truly desire is those relationships, those connections, and having that last for life and that passion towards life. But you're never gonna get that if you only bank on the vanity metrics. And not only that, even if you finally achieve those vanity metrics, there's no way that you could see life the same way, right? Then and of course, the social opportunity you'll get once you're rich, famous, and good looking is gonna be tenfold. Of course it is. We can't ignore that fact that the halo effect exists, and people who look better, people who are rich and full of status, no shit, they're gonna get better response from the people around them. But we shouldn't let that, potential lower response diminish the quality of our life on a day-to-day basis or take away from our efforts. We should be doing both hand in hand. And I want to discuss the idea of the Renaissance man. The Renaissance man is this idea of a guy who is driven by curiosity and conscientiousness, a love for lifelong learning, and the pursuit of balanced self-development across many different areas, embodying the humanist belief in human potential and trying to maximize that to the best of their ability. The desire to become a well-rounded individual who's intellectual, who's physically fit, who has mastery over the mind, body, and soul, who values connection, who has a desire to understand the world deeply, to care for the people around him deeply. And I looked at this idea because I wanted to be above simply vanity metrics. It can't be that everybody's worth is simply calculated by how much looks and status and money they have. Because there has to be some sort of differentiating factor, and I want to be above that. I want to be better than that. So in some way, I'm also status seeking, but I want to be better. I don't want to look at these vanity metrics as an end-all be-all, but instead a tool in order to contribute more, in order to show more love, in order to have more people by my side that are willing to do more servitude with me. Some examples of Renaissance men are people like Leonardo da Vinci, people like Plato, people like Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was a US president, and he was a boxer, and he would, have this underground fight club in the White House and invite military men to box and professionals to box. And he eventually even had his fucking retina detached by one of his military men or some shit like that through sparring. Imagine being a president and somebody who's very passionate about boxing at the same time, and someone who actively practices it. And then we look at Leonardo da Vinci, bro. He's an engineer, an artist, a writer. He's a swimmer, he's a horseman, he's a wrestler, and he practices all those different disciplines to a decently high level of competence. Let's look at someone like Plato, for example. Plato is a wrestler. His name literally means broad, like wide, because he's a huge dude that's given to him by his wrestling coach. His real name is like Aristotle or some shit like that. Close to Aristotle, but Aristotle, I think, like with a C. Dude's a wrestler, a philosopher, and a gymnast, and he competed at a high level as well. And he strongly believed that physical vigor is a complement to the mind. We look at people like these, men who have excelled in many different fields of their lives, in spirit and mind and in physical. And these men have innovated and changed the way we think and the way we put our words together and the way we look at life. And these men are larger than life because they've dedicated themselves to their own ideal, that they have formulated themselves without too much external influence. Unlike nowadays, where we're so addicted to doom scrolling and playing video games and being told what to think. We make arguments without knowing the topic entirely, and we are all trying to be thought leaders without understanding what we are speaking about entirely, because we are quick to want to appear as intelligent as possible without putting the actual effort into it and without thinking the things we have to say all the way through. We want to be quick. We think that speed is mastery, but that's not really the case, is it? I think becoming somebody who has this unquenchable thirst towards life and curiosity and passion and love for people is just a way better take towards life than simply relying on vanity metrics. While all these things matter, money, fame, looks, all fucking matter because they reflect your social opportunity, right? And of course, money isn't real until you have none of it. Money is absolutely probably going to change our lives. Looks are probably actually going to change our lives. All these things are amazing tools, but when it comes to an end-all be-all, it can't be vanity metrics that decide everything. I think what's important is how we make that money, how we gain that status, and what our looks complement of our character. These things are tools, these things are amplifiers of who we are underneath. And while it may seem like everybody's rewarding these vanity metrics and everybody is looking up to these vanity metrics, it's important to understand that this is a temporary thing, and people are going to be quick to realize that there's something more to this. This is a temporary fix for a world that is designed to reward very superficial, quantifiable things that are simple to, attach an admirable quality to. And before you waste your life away running in circles around vanity metrics that all aren't real anyway, they're all facets of social constructs and things like that. Who do you want to die as? Right? We have to be different from these people who are simply completely invested into their own vanity metrics and their own individual opportunity. And that's how we can stand out today. In a world where everybody's into looksmaxxing, having their own online business where they lie to people, basically lie to people, and have all these sales tactics and manipulation tactics, which of course I respect, but I just can't bring myself to do. Because that's not how I want to make my money. Social media has brainwashed us into thinking that we have immense scarcity in our day-to-day life, thinking that we have a lot more to achieve, but we forget to look at the world that's actually around us and realize that, we have to be really careful about what we put in our head and the information we consume, because we might very well be creating anxiety that was never there, needs that weren't ever there, hatred that was never there. just because of what we see online and just because what we are told to think. We are told to think that we are below other people if we look less good because they're going to be mogging us and taking all our females from us. We are told that if we don't have the money and status, we should be ashamed of ourselves because we can't provide for our family and our family doesn't have that freedom. And it creates all this unnecessary anxiety, which a lot of the times are completely valid to think of, especially when you put it in the face of the male ego. And of course, these things are wonderful to have and you should absolutely go for them. But what is important is how you achieve them, why you need them, what are you going to do with these vanity metrics, and what they say about your character and how it complements you as a person with all these different tools. It is important that we abstain from the use of doom scrolling and random shit, so that we are more careful about what we put into our mind, knowing how easy it is for people to be brainwashed nowadays, knowing how much of the media and everything you consume is being tailored and censored and played around with in order to, spike some sort of anxiety within you or tell you some way to think, which we never want. We want to be above that because we aren't just like other people who are soft and shallow and take life at such a shallow hedonistic level whereby we only value vanity metrics and everything else doesn't fucking matter. I think it's a great ability to think deeply and to be passionate about the things we do and to care about how we make that money, how we gain that fame and status, and how we want to carry ourselves and play our part in our day-to-day lives. We are in the most comfortable, privileged era that's ever been. There's no time that's more comfortable and peaceful than this, and yet people are more separated than ever, more individualistic than ever. In a world where peace is at its peak, we are supposed to be more bonded than ever, but turns out we are more separate than ever because there's no common goal or common enemy anymore. And now people are all over the place. People are supposed to be more interconnected since the whole world is connected through social media. Now we're all more in our own heads. We overthink more about what we need and what we want. We have more competition on an individual level. We have more hatred towards the world and each other than ever, probably. And so if we want things to change, we have to be larger than this. And we have to, abstain from what the world is trying to get us to think and formulate our ideas ourselves and put them out there in an honest fashion and make the relationships that we want to make, value the connections, and find the love in our own lives and let our minds prosper. You got this. I love you. It's a better work.